He found the baby-minder spooning some sort of brown mush into his daughter's mouth, while Mara was doing her best to spread it across her face and into her ears. At the sight of her father, she batted the loaded spoon aside, cried, "Ah!" and beamed at him, lifting both sticky arms towards him in a clear request to pick me up. In a moment, he bent to plant a kiss on a clean patch of hair before slaking his thirst with watered wine. Watching the baby-minder applying a damp cloth to his protesting daughter's face and hands, it occurred to him that he and Tilla had rather neglected their responsibilities as parents over the last couple of days. "I'll take her," he offered, and the baby-minder wiped away a last smear of mush before handing her over. "We're going for a walk," he told Mara, lifting her and tucking one arm around a pleasingly dry small bottom. "Come and see where your pa was brought up." The cook watched them go with a fond smile. As they left, he overheard her say something to the baby-minder about him being a devoted father. Anybody would think that child was his own. The cook might have been less impressed if she had known that the tour would give him a convenient excuse to visit Verax in the bathhouse. The first stop on the tour, though, was the vineyard. "This," he told Mara, "is where your Uncle Lucius grows the grapes to make our wine." He pointed to a tiny cluster of green nodules. "What do you think? Will it be a good year?" When Mara did not offer an opinion, he said, "No, I don't know how you tell either. Let's find your Aunt Flora." He tramped the length of the rows of vines, but there was no sign of Flora. Only a couple of farm hands in rough brown tunics moving about in the dappled shade. One of them thought he had caught a glimpse of Mistress Flora down in the olive grove. Meanwhile, they politely referred a decision about pruning to Ruso, just as they would have to his brother. Lucius would have known the answer. As the slaves must be well aware, Ruso barely understood the question. He played along by asking them what they thought was best, and then agreed with them, leaving them to resume their work with everyone's dignity intact. "Your ma was a slave when I met her," he told Mara. Not because she would understand, but because there were some things it was important not to forget. You can never tell how things will turn out. There was no sign of Flora amidst the bright scatter of poppies that bloomed beneath the gnarled olive trees, nor was she down in the shade of the woods. He was making his way up to the house when he heard the scream of a child in pain. Pressing Mara against him, he raced back down the slope. "Who's there? Where are you?" A small nephew broke cover just ahead of him and fled into the trees. A second nephew staggered forward, clutching his face. Blood was dribbling out between his fingers. "My eye!" he howled. "My eye's gone!" Mara began to cry. Ruso crouched in front of the boy. "What happened?" "My eye!" "Let me see." Finally the wail of "my eye" subsided into frightened sobbing, and the protective hand was lifted. "Well done," Ruso told him, relieved that Mara had stopped crying in his ear. "Now let's have a look and see what's going on." A small voice said, "Will he be all right?" Ruso glanced up. The fugitive had returned and was standing white-faced, well out of reach. "I didn't mean it," the boy continued. "He said, 'Let's throw stones.' So I did." "Not at me, stupid!" wailed his brother. He shrank away as Ruso reached to wipe away the blood. "Will I die?" "No," Ruso told him, glancing at Mara and wishing he too could make everything better by shoving his thumb in his mouth. "We'll go back to the house, and I'll clean you up and sew you back together like I do with the soldiers." "Will it hurt?" He used his "not much" reply, the one that was a compromise between telling the truth and not frightening the patient. "I'm an expert," he added, something he would never have said to an adult. "You're lucky I'm here." Leading his patient by the hand up the dusty path towards the house, he said, "I was looking for your cousin Flora. You haven't seen her, have you?" From behind them the smaller nephew's voice put in, "She said not to tell," just as his injured brother said, "Flora went for a walk." "Where did she go?" The younger child's voice rose. "She said we mustn't say—" "Shut up, you!" snapped his brother. "You're in enough trouble." Then to Ruso, "She's gone for a long walk. She said we couldn't come, and we don't know where she went." 2 stitches, a cup of milk, and several honey cakes later, it was apparent that the eye was in no danger. It was also apparent that the boys genuinely didn't know where Flora had gone. Ruso had a horrible suspicion that she might have headed back to Sabinus's estate, believing Verax still to be chained up over there. Well, this time she would have to manage without him. He couldn't go to retrieve her until Tilla returned from town with the family's one vehicle.